every morning precisely at 4:30 a.m. before the first blush of sunlight painted the skyline of Bayside Harbor. Olivia Hartley unlocked the worn wooden door of Sweet Memories Bakery. Nestled quietly between a pharmacy glowing faintly from the neon open 24 hours sign and an all-night laundromat rumbling with quiet monotony, the bakery was a warm sanctuary. At 34, Olivia had spent 9 years mastering delicate pastries, her almond croissants so tender they seemed to sigh beneath the tongue, her blueberry muffins known throughout Bayside as the perfect balance between tartness and warmth. Yet to those closest to her, Olivia's true artistry wasn't captured in sugar and flour, nor could it be read on the chalkboard menu. It was instead a quiet ritual born out of compassion and repeated faithfully every morning at exactly 5:15 a.m. After sliding the first golden tray from the ovens, Olivia always selected the best pastry, a freshly glazed Danish, a cinnamon roll still steaming gently, or a warm cheddar biscuit. She wrapped it meticulously in crisp wax paper, pouring hot aromatic coffee into a sturdy paper cup. With practiced care, she inscribed the same gentle message onto a simple napkin in neat script, "May your day bring peace." She moved quietly, slipping through the bakery's back door, into the narrow alleyway that smelled faintly of sea salt and rain-washed bricks. Across the damp asphalt stood a weathered bench beneath a flickering street lamp, and it was there that Olivia placed her offering every morning, always returning inside before the bakery's lights flickered to life. The pastry was always claimed before dawn by a figure who had become as much a fixture on that bench as its worn wooden slats. A silent elderly man draped in a thinning army jacket, his face etched with deep lines and memories, eyes perpetually fixed on some distant point on the harbor. Olivia had never learned his name, and he had never offered it. Their communication was wordless, understood only in the delicate exchange of kindness from afar. Olivia felt compelled not by pity nor charity, but by the simple belief that dignity was a basic human right. Yet Olivia's quiet act did not go unnoticed. At first, the whispers among co-workers were muted, more curious than critical. But as months stretched into years, curiosity hardened into judgment. "She's throwing good product away," murmured Casey, a newer hire at the bakery. "One day she'll regret this." "It's irresponsible," added Lynette, shaking her head over trays of morning rolls. "You feed a stray, and it'll never leave." Customers noticed too, their gazes lingering curiously, whispers exchanged behind half-raised menus. Occasionally, Olivia caught snippets, words like naive and misguided charity. Each comment pricked softly at her heart, a quiet pain she absorbed without response. The bakery had recently come under new ownership. The new proprietor, Helen Cooper, a woman whose sharp efficiency overshadowed any warmth, noticed quickly. During Olivia's performance review, Helen sat rigidly across from her, clipboard at the ready, her voice chilly with forced politeness. "Your pastries are exceptional." Helen started, her pen tapping softly against paper. "Your punctuality commendable, your reputation with customers admirable." However, Olivia waited, a faint tension tightening her fingers. "This morning tradition," Helen continued, voice flat. "The pastries left outside. It makes patrons uncomfortable. It's a liability. Perhaps direct your generosity elsewhere, official charities, shelters." Olivia had nodded slowly, quiet acceptance masking deep resolve. Her acts weren't public declarations. They were silent gestures of humanity, personal and necessary. Helen had drawn a line and Olivia adapted. She came earlier, slipping out unnoticed at 4:45 instead of 5:15, leaving the bakery precisely as the first shadows receded. But the scrutiny intensified. The hushed conversations behind the espresso machine grew louder, bolder. Some openly mocked her. Others shook their heads with patronizing pity. Poor Olivia whispered a regular customer, loudly enough for Olivia to overhear, thinking she's making a difference. On mornings when fatigue settled deeply into her bones, when her wrists ached from rolling endless dough, or loneliness crept silently into her small apartment, these words cut deeper. Olivia's fiancé, Jacob, a paramedic, whose quiet strength matched her quiet compassion, gently reassured her each evening. "Your kindness is powerful, Olivia. Never doubt it." One particularly cold February morning, Bayside Harbor woke under a heavy sky, clouds gray as iron. The sea wind sliced sharply through streets and alleyways, making even the hardy locals pull coats tighter. Olivia arrived at Sweet Memories Bakery even earlier, her breath misting as she unlocked the door in the pre-dawn darkness. Her fingers stiff with cold, moved methodically through dough, and batter her routine as comforting as prayer. When the pastry, a pecan-studded cinnamon bun, warm and fragrant, was ready, she carefully wrapped it, filled the coffee cup, and opened the door. Outside, the wind bit fiercely, tugging at her apron. Across the alley, the old man sat hunched, the wind pulling at his jacket. Something felt different this morning, heavier somehow. Olivia acted on instinct, taking the knitted scarf from around her neck, wrapping it loosely around the pastry. She crossed swiftly, placing the pastry and scarf beside him without words. She didn't linger, returning quickly to her warmth-lit sanctuary. The next morning, as Olivia cleaned her workstation after another early delivery, something unusual caught her eye. A small napkin beneath the flour canister, folded neatly. Curious, she opened it gently, heart-catching at the shaky handwriting inside. "Thank you for seeing me as human." For a moment, the world fell silent around Olivia. The bakery's gentle bustle faded, replaced by a powerful, quiet affirmation. She slipped the napkin carefully into her apron pocket, later transferring it safely into her wallet. There it remained, a quiet testament, tangible proof that her quiet kindness mattered, unseen, but profoundly felt. Yet later that same afternoon, Helen called Olivia into her office once more, her expression rigid, unsympathetic. "Olivia, I specifically asked you to stop. It ends today." Helen's voice left no room for argument, and something inside Olivia broke quietly and visibly. She nodded slowly, heart aching. Her quiet act of kindness, her small, consistent gesture, had been taken from her, leaving an emptiness that echoed louder than any whispered mockery. But as she stepped outside into the biting wind, Olivia realized something else had changed. A quiet strength blooming within her. The symbol of her compassion, though interrupted, would not disappear. It simply needed another way to live. And as Olivia turned toward home beneath a sky heavy with unfallen rain, she vowed quietly to herself a compassion in silence, briefly, would never truly fade. In the days following Helen's firm directive, Olivia felt an acute sense of isolation settle into her daily routine. The act of quiet compassion, which had become the gentle heartbeat of her mornings, was now stilled. Bayside Harbor continued its rhythm as if nothing had changed, unaware that something precious had quietly faded. The weight of silence pressed down upon Olivia, heavy as the dense coastal fog rolling in each morning. Though the early mornings were unchanged externally, the ovens humming softly, flour dusting countertops, customers eagerly lining up for fresh pastries. Internally, Olivia felt hollow. The space in her routine, once filled with purposeful kindness, now echoed emptily. Each glance toward the back alleyway bench felt like a physical ache, a reminder of an unfinished conversation, a silent connection severed abruptly. Her co-workers noticed her withdrawal, but chose to interpret it incorrectly. "Looks like reality finally sunk in," Lynette remarked one morning, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Casey nodded, adding with exaggerated concern, "It's probably better this way. She'll thank Helen later." Social media, ever vigilant, added another layer of harshness. A viral post capturing Olivia's quiet morning ritual from a hidden angle became a talking point among Bayside residents. Hashtags such as misguided kindness and no more freebies filled local feeds, each mocking comment hitting Olivia like small, relentless blows. "Another idealist learns the hard way," read one comment liked by dozens. She thought she could change things, typical. Yet amid the cruel comments and mocking hashtags, Olivia kept returning to the napkin tucked carefully in her wallet. Its simple message reminded her daily that kindness was never misguided. Each evening, she showed it to Jacob, finding quiet solace in his unwavering belief. One morning, as Olivia prepared pastries quietly in the back kitchen, a sudden knock startled her. Through the window, she saw Casey speaking animatedly with a customer holding up her phone. Olivia's stomach tightened, recognizing the video of her morning ritual on the screen. Casey glanced over, eyes glittering with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Olivia turned away sharply, feeling the sting of betrayal deep in her isolation. Later that afternoon, during a lull in business, Olivia quietly stepped outside to clear her thoughts. The brisk sea air usually brought comfort, but today it merely intensified her loneliness. She glanced toward the bench, now empty, cold, and strangely lifeless, without its silent occupant. The absence of the elderly man seemed to symbolize the loss she felt inside, sharp and poignant. As days turned to weeks, Olivia found it increasingly difficult to shield herself from the pervasive cynicism that surrounded her. Customers once friendly now regarded her with subtle judgment, their polite greetings masking thinly veiled contempt or pity. One particularly bleak afternoon, Olivia overheard two regulars whispering as they collected their pastries. "I always thought Olivia was smarter," one said, shaking his head slowly. "Wasting good food on someone who probably didn't even appreciate it." His companion agreed readily. She had to learn somehow. The conversation cut deeply sharper because it echoed doubts Olivia herself had begun to battle during sleepless nights. Was she truly naive? Had her act of compassion been meaningless? Her internal struggle intensified, fueled by sleepless nights and haunting self-doubt. Despite the overwhelming negativity, a quiet defiance simmered beneath Olivia's fatigue. She kept working, her pastries still flawless, her interactions courteous and professional. Yet beneath her calm exterior lay a growing determination, nourished daily by brief glances at the worn napkin and quiet conversations with Jacob. Jacob, noticing her deepening sadness, held her gently one evening after dinner. "Olivia, your kindness was real pure," he whispered softly, brushing her hair aside. "No gossip or judgment can erase what you've done." She sighed deeply, her voice small. "I just wish they could understand." "They don't have to," he replied firmly. "Their misunderstanding doesn't diminish your truth." His words settled gently into her heart, a balm against the raw wounds left by unkind whispers. Yet even Jacob's comfort could not entirely erase her pain or ease her growing sense of isolation. Then one evening after closing, Olivia found a folded newspaper clipping slipped beneath the bakery's front door. Curious, she unfolded it carefully. The headline read, "Local Hero Forgotten." Accompanying it was a blurred photograph of the elderly man from the bench, dressed in uniform, decades younger medals pinned proudly to his chest. A handwritten note at the bottom simply said, "Not everyone forgot." Olivia's hands trembled as she read, realizing someone else recognized his dignity, his silent strength. The anonymous message felt like a lifeline, reminding her that she was not entirely alone in her recognition of quiet heroism. Yet as quickly as hope stirred, the harshness returned. The next morning, the clipping was replaced by another mocking viral post, sarcastically captioned, "The hero nobody asked for," turning genuine valor into a cruel joke. Olivia felt the weight of isolation pressing harder, understanding now that choosing compassion was also choosing vulnerability. The public mockery was relentless, but Olivia began to realize something profound. True kindness didn't require applause or acknowledgement from the crowd. It existed powerfully in quiet acts, resilient in the face of misunderstanding. Each cruel word only deepened her resolve. Isolation had taught Olivia an essential truth. Compassion was not diminished by cruelty, it was strengthened by it. And as she prepared pastries once again beneath the dim pre-dawn lights, Olivia quietly resolved that the world's harshness would not silence her heart's quiet, steadfast voice. The quiet defiance Olivia cultivated during her weeks of isolation soon became her quiet strength. And yet even she could not have anticipated what was about to unfold. It was a clear, crisp Saturday morning, with sunlight casting golden patterns across Bayside Harbor. The gentle murmur of the waking town drifted through Sweet Memories Bakery, bringing warmth despite the lingering chill. Olivia moved through her tasks methodically, hands steady but mind-restless thoughts, frequently drifting to the elderly man in the folded newspaper clipping. She now treasured alongside the worn napkin. Today was special, her wedding day. Olivia had looked forward to this moment with joyful anticipation, a bright milestone amid recent shadows. The small harbor church was dressed simply in white lace and fresh flowers, delicate scents mingling with ocean breeze. Yet beneath her excitement lay a quiet, unresolved ache. She had invited friends and family but couldn't shake the feeling that someone important was missing, someone who'd quietly influenced her life without ever speaking a word. As the church filled, Olivia watched nervously from a window in the small room where she prepared, her hands clasped tightly. Guests took their seats, chatting quietly, their whispers blending into a comforting hum. Then something unexpected caught her eye. a familiar figure approaching the church steps with hesitant dignity. It was the elderly man from the bench wearing a slightly oversized but carefully pressed suit, a quiet pride evident in his posture. Her heart leapt, relief and gratitude mingling in her chest. Yet around him murmurs rose from the seated guests' eyes, narrowing in confusion and disapproval. Olivia watched helplessly as their whispered judgment rippled through the congregation. Gathering her courage, she stepped out, drawing startled gasps and scattered whispers as she moved confidently down the aisle toward him. As she reached him, silence descended heavy with anticipation. "I'm so glad you came," Olivia said softly, meeting his eyes with quiet respect. He nodded slowly, voice firm but gentle, tinged with an emotion long held at bay. "I needed to be here. You've given me something no medal or recognition ever could. Respect, dignity, a reminder of what matters." Before Olivia could respond, sharp footsteps echoed against the polished wooden floors. The heavy doors opened dramatically, revealing 12 uniformed United States Marines marching with disciplined precision into the church. The congregation fell into stunned silence, all eyes focused intently. The lead officer stepped forward, saluting crisply. "We are here today to honor Sergeant Nathaniel Mercer, whose bravery and sacrifice saved our lives during combat operations overseas. His courage went unrecognized by his choice until today." Nathaniel stood silently, head bowed slightly but eyes clear and proud. The captain turned toward Olivia, his voice steady and respectful. "We also recognize Olivia Hartley, whose quiet acts of compassion reminded Sergeant Mercer, and all of us, of humanity's true strength." The murmurs transformed judgment, shifting rapidly to awe and respect. Eyes that had once mocked now welled with tears of shame and newfound understanding. Lynette, seated near the front, glanced down, deeply humbled. Casey shifted uncomfortably, realization dawning clearly on her face. Captain Harrison turned fully toward Olivia. "Miss Hartley, your actions spoke louder than any words ever could. You reminded this man who had lost so much that he was not forgotten." Emotion thickened Olivia's voice. "I never knew who he was, but that didn't matter. He deserved dignity." The captain nodded, handing Olivia a velvet case containing a silver star polished and pristine. "Sergeant Mercer earned this but refused it. He said he needed no recognition. But he does deserve it, and so do you." Nathaniel spoke quietly, his voice resonant and powerful despite his modesty. "I never wanted medals. After losing my family, all I needed was to feel human again." Olivia reminded me how. Moved beyond words, Olivia's fiancé Jacob stepped forward, offering his hand firmly to Nathaniel. "It would be an honor if you walked Olivia down the aisle." Surprised but deeply touched, Nathaniel hesitated only briefly before nodding solemnly. Olivia took his arm, feeling profound gratitude and humility as they moved forward together. Guests rose silently, their eyes reflecting newfound respect. Each step toward the altar felt sacred, a testament to quiet compassion and the power of seeing humanity in others. Olivia felt tears of joy and validation sliding gently down her cheeks. The ceremony that followed was simple, yet deeply heartfelt. Vows exchanged, rings placed, but what truly resonated with everyone present was the realization that a quiet act of kindness had not only uplifted a forgotten hero, but had transformed their collective hearts. As Olivia and Jacob exchanged vows, Nathaniel sat silently nearby, dignified and calm, a quiet pillar of strength and honor. His presence spoke profoundly, reminding everyone of kindness's quiet power. Afterward, as guests gathered outside beneath the sunlit sky, Captain Harrison approached Olivia again. "Your kindness sparked something bigger than you realize. Bayside Harbor won't forget today." Olivia smiled softly, the ache of isolation fading fully for the first time in weeks. "Neither will I." And as she stood beside Jacob, looking across the joyful faces gathered, Olivia understood the truth deeply. Compassion didn't need applause. It simply needed quiet courage and steadfast belief. In the weeks following Olivia and Jacob's wedding, the quiet strength and compassion that defined Olivia's journey blossomed into a powerful new purpose. The profound events of their wedding day had not only changed Bayside Harbor's perception, but also sparked a lasting legacy rooted deeply in compassion and dignity. Inspired by Sergeant Nathaniel Mercer's story and the unexpected recognition from the Marines, Olivia and Jacob opened a modest cafe near the waterfront, naming it Harbor's Haven. It was a warm, inviting place where veterans, the elderly, or anyone in need could sit quietly, receive a nourishing meal, and be genuinely seen and respected. The cafe quickly became a cherished landmark, its wooden doors always open wide, the scent of fresh baked bread and coffee mingling gently with sea breeze. Each table held a simple vase of wildflowers and a small handwritten note echoing Olivia's heartfelt mantra, "You are seen. You matter." Soon the Haven became more than just a cafe. It evolved into a community sanctuary. Volunteers eagerly stepped forward, including Casey and Lynette, whose perspectives had profoundly shifted after witnessing the honoring of Sergeant Mercer. Their initial skepticism had melted away, replaced by genuine humility and dedication. Olivia herself remained quietly humble, gently deflecting praise. It was never about recognition, she often reminded those who visited, just simple kindness. One crisp autumn morning, Nathaniel Mercer visited the cafe, warmly greeted by Olivia and Jacob. He sat quietly at a corner table, a thoughtful smile softening his face as he observed the bustling space filled with warmth and compassion. "Did you ever imagine it would come to this?" Olivia asked softly, taking a seat beside him. Nathaniel shook his head gently, eyes thoughtful. "I never imagined anything beyond surviving each day. You reminded me that kindness isn't just survival, it's truly living." As months passed, Nathaniel became a regular presence at Harbor's Haven, quietly guiding veterans struggling to adjust back into civilian life. His own quiet dignity provided comfort and inspiration, reinforcing the cafe's fundamental mission of seeing people as individuals, not burdens. One afternoon, Olivia discovered a small crowd gathered around a newly installed wooden plaque beside the cafe's entrance. She approached curiously, her heart swelling as she read, "In honor of Sergeant Nathaniel Mercer, whose quiet bravery taught us the true meaning of compassion." Below the dedication, another line was inscribed, a gentle reminder for all who entered. "Remember that quiet kindness can transform lives." Beside the plaque, Olivia noticed a familiar face. Captain Harrison, now dressed casually, smiling warmly. "Thought you might appreciate this," he said quietly. It was Nathaniel's idea. Deeply moved, Olivia found Nathaniel sitting inside quietly sipping coffee. She placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Thank you for everything." Nathaniel looked up, eyes shining with quiet pride. "I should thank you. You reminded me of who I was, who I wanted to be." The cafe flourished, drawing visitors from across Bayside and beyond. Veterans found solace, locals discovered community, and the simple act of sharing a meal became an affirmation of dignity and compassion. News quietly spread, not through sensational headlines, but gentle whispers, heartfelt recommendations, and sincere testimonials shared among neighbors. Months turned into years, and Harbor's Haven solidified itself as a beacon of kindness in Bayside Harbor. Olivia and Jacob watched with quiet pride as their dream grew into a sustainable legacy deeply embedded in the town's heart. On the cafe's 10th anniversary, a gentle celebration filled the space with warmth and gratitude. Olivia, Jacob, Nathaniel, and familiar faces gathered quietly, reminiscing, laughing softly, and sharing heartfelt stories. As twilight deepened, Olivia stepped outside, breathing in the cool evening air, heart filled with profound gratitude. Nearby, Nathaniel joined her quietly, his eyes thoughtful. "Look what your kindness has created," he said softly, gesturing toward the warmly lit cafe. "You showed us all that compassion is never small, it's everything." Olivia smiled gently, eyes misting with quiet joy. "It wasn't just me, it was everyone who chose to see to care." He nodded quietly, eyes reflecting deep understanding. "And now it's a legacy." Later that evening, after the last guest departed, Olivia lingered briefly, reflecting silently on her journey. The quiet loss, profound isolation, unexpected honoring, and now this remarkable legacy. She reached carefully into her wallet, gently unfolding the worn napkin Nathaniel had returned to her years ago, its faded message still clear. "May your day bring peace." As she refolded it gently, Olivia knew deeply that her simple act of compassion had quietly transformed lives, including her own. Harbor's Haven would remain a sanctuary for quiet dignity, enduring kindness, and human connection. Its doors always open, a legacy built quietly but unforgettably proof that compassion offered freely and consistently held power enough to heal even the deepest wounds.